Hi, my name is Ernie Paszkiewicz. I'm an audit and accounting partner with the CPA firm of Mendelsohn. And I know you can't tell by looking at me, but I've actually worked with nonprofits for over 38 years now. Over the years, I've served on a number of nonprofit boards. Most of my time was spent with the Harford County Chamber of Commerce for over 10 years, but also spent time with the Alumni Association and the school board of Archbishop Curley High School and the Community Law Center. The best part of working with nonprofits is you get to help them fulfill their mission. So whether it's working with a voluntary health and welfare organization, or whether you're working with a animal organization and helping the people fulfill their mission of either helping people or helping animals or whatever their goal is, that's where you really get the fulfillment of working with nonprofits. So a lot of times CFOs run into problems, and one of the easiest things they can fix is just make sure they're staying up on their accounting records. And if they have any questions, make sure they ask those questions of their auditors or their outside accounting advisors. So nothing ends up being a surprise at the back end when they're going through their audit or their tax preparation. One of the biggest mistakes a nonprofit will make in doing their accounting is they'll take either a grant from a federal or state government agency, and then they don't really understand all the requirements and the accounting that goes along with it. And that can actually backfire in the back end with requiring monies to be repaid after they've been spent. So that's probably the biggest thing we run into where organizations will make a mistake with their accounting records. One of the things nonprofits do with their audit process is they don't really prepare for it. So one of the things you want to do is really make sure before the auditors come in, you've gone through the records, you have backup and support for all the critical areas. The auditors will always give you a prepared by client list ahead of time, but they also will ask you for some things that are of a surprise nature, just to go through and keep you honest. But those are the kinds of things that you need to make sure you can answer and have those records available and understand really what the underlying transactions are in your accounting records. Over the years, I've served on a number of different boards. Probably the longest period of time was with the Harford County Chamber of Commerce, spent 10 years in all the officer positions and on the board. Was on the Archbishop Curley Alumni Association board, was on the Archbishop Curley School Board for a number of years, Community Law Center, and on my second tour with the Archbishop Curley School Board. As an auditor, one of the things we have to do is be aware of our independence rules. So sometimes we can't be on the board of an organization, but we can help in an advisory role and be on an advisory committee or just help them out on a volunteer basis, particularly when they can't afford to have an outside accountant work with them. So one of the things you want to make sure that before you become a board member is you really want to make sure you understand the mission of the organization and make sure it meshes with your personal beliefs and what you really think an organization should be accomplishing. Second thing you want to make sure of is that the organization explains to you what they want your role to be. Do they really want you to be more on the organization from a fundraising standpoint or to help them with their programs, or for you to be a donor? The third thing is really just to make sure that the organization is one where you can really make the time commitment. There may be a substantial time commitment with being on the board with meetings and being on various committees, and it's really important that once you make the commitment to be on a board that you fulfill the time commitments and with everything that they request you to do. Being on the board of a number of different organizations and working with as many organizations as I've had, I've seen situations where board members maybe aren't fulfilling their responsibility. And one of the things I always tell the board chair in those situations is really to make sure that you sit down with the person, make sure that they really are going to make the commitment, and if they can't, just explain to them that it's okay for them to remove themselves from the board so you can get somebody in a position that can help the organization. The other thing is to make sure that you, as you're evaluating the board member and you think they're not fulfilling their commitment, maybe the board chair really does, because maybe there's a particular purpose that they have that they want that person to do, and you just can't see them fulfilling that purpose. So one of the things as a board member that you have to remember is the board's responsibility is really one that's at a macro level. It's to set the policies and the direction of the organization, but it's not to implement day-to-day operations. So one of the things, when you get involved is there might be some things that from an operational standpoint You may not like or agree with how they're doing it, but it's up to management to fulfill the actual implementation, and it's up to you as a board member to help set the direction of the organization.